being here at the castle, walking through the dungeons, walking through the cells.
They literally took us off these shores.
The female dungeon, the male dungeon, and really understanding and grasping the idea that our ancestors went through crazy emotional turmoil and physical abuse.
So many of our interpretations and narratives have been taken out of context. That Africans worship rocks, they worship trees. No, we understand the life force and the life being and everything in this universe and its connectivity. And we have to return back to our own narratives and our own truth in order for the African spirit to rise. Because just as they suppress that, they suppress you and I, because our humanity is in our culture. So the return represents returning back to the pride and the dignity that we survive with as a people, which is our culture, our story, our heritage. That's what we want to take away from it.
We don't believe in ourselves and we don't believe in our people, but our ancestors, our forefathers, our foremothers, they fought for dear life. And like our tour guide said, we are descendants of the survivors, of the ones who refused to die.
Even researchers have found it difficult to establish the number of captives who arrived alive. Captives who arrived alive. We don't know the number. Some claim about 10 million, 15 million, 20 million, up to about 100 million. Out of this, we don't know the number of people who died on the sea. We also don't know the number of people who died in the dungeons like this. And there are over 30 of such buildings along the coast of Ghana, even when Ghana was then known as the Gold Coast. You understand? They named each area after the products they got from that area. So we have the Gold Coast, we have the Ivory Coast. Did you know we have the Slave Coast? We have the Grain Coast in Nigeria, Ivory Coast. We have the Slave Coast between Ghana and Nigeria, Togo and Benin, was known as the Slave Coast. So if they had that number of forts and castles of such nature along the coast of the Gold Coast, what happened on the Slave Coast? We also don't know the number of people who died on their way into the dungeons, and how many people died in the many battles, wars, and raids to capture them. So we can just imagine the number of people who were involved in a trade that lasted for over 400 years.
So literally, they took the African burial ground from New York. They took one remains there with Samuel Carson, the great-granduncle of Sonny Carson from Brooklyn, New York. And they went to Jamaica and brought back Kill Crystal. And they brought those remains back on Ghana Airways. And then we took a boat from Abanzi. So it would be like we were bringing them back across the waters. And something phenomenal happened. When those coffins were there in that village in Abanzi, and they brought out the brothers to lift up that coffin, they could not lift up the coffins. They had to call this priest out and priestesses to find out why couldn't nobody lift up those coffins. They said because the remains didn't want to go back on that ocean. So they had to perform rituals in order to be able to ask permission for those dead remains to go on those waters to be taken home. So all the fishermen in this area made a corridor and brought those remains in on those boats. And we brought them through this door of return, to switch back that whole narrative of no longer the door of no return. The African is triumphant. They called back home the sons and daughters of Africa, and so that door was renamed. This is the full circle, 360 degrees. You come through that door of no return. Organize yourselves and sacrifice and say, you've come back. You've defied the words of those who thought you would never come back. That's full circle. Every voice and sing, 'cause your earth and heaven ring with the harmony of it.
I'm motivated, I'm sad, I'm happy, I'm mad, but I have a new spirit that birthed in me today. We have to fight. We have to continue to fight because they fought and they didn't give up. And we're here because of them. And it is our due diligence and our duty to honor them and to speak their names and to walk in their spirit and to walk in our purpose because they died for us.
really they lived for us. If they had not survived, like if you really were to trace our literal DNA back to wherever we come from off this coast, if those persons who are our ancestors would have been the ones who jumped off the cliff or toppled over the boat or were murdered or were killed themselves or whatever, who didn't survive, or who died because of disease or died because of famine. Me, Jay Morrison, Ernestina Morrison wouldn't be here. We wouldn't exist. Eugene Bush wouldn't exist if our direct descendants and ancestors had not survived. We don't exist. Some other African or African in America or African in the Caribbean or African in South America or African Indian or African Australian or wherever out in the diaspora, you might exist, but we don't exist. Had that ancestor not specifically survived.
We are the direct reflection of the genealogy of the most resilient people, of the most strong people on this earth.
The best
and we
DNA.
have to walk in that every day.
So this is a call out to all Africans to make a mind, a travel plan, to come back to Ghana, to Africa.